The gift of gab.
There was one comment, the guy just goes, "You just fucking shut up and let Mark talk." That was it. That was his whole comment. He's like, "You just basically shouldn't be there. Just ask him questions and shut the fuck up."
That's hilarious.
So the question is,
But as far
how much procedural generation do you think would be a good thing in the game? What's the balance? It's a tricky one.
The balance is going to be, that's a tricky one.
But
there definitely needs to be restraint with it to an extent, because there does need to be a substantial portion of the world that feels kind of lived in. Know what I mean?
Handcrafted.
Like populated and lived in. Yeah. You know, it's like when I moved to Denver, Denver wasn't procedurally generated. It was already here.
Nice analogy.
You know, so, yeah.
But okay, so why is that important? What's the benefit of having that? I mean, I'm kind of thinking because this is so important because of No Man's Sky, right? That was just everywhere you go is just copy paste, and it's so fucking obvious within about 20 minutes of playing the game, and it's shit.
And
it's just shit.
And it's sparse.
It's crap. It's boring.
Yeah,
it's just boring.
And it's sparse.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, No Man's Sky is like the Big Bang. You know, it's essentially like the Big Bang just happened and nothing exists yet. You know, whereas with Star Citizen, I mean, it's in the name, citizen. You know, you are meant to be joining this community that is larger than yourself. You know, and if you come into it and it's all procedurally generated and everything feels random like that, it's not going to feel like a persistent universe that was already there before you ever even got there. You know, it's like for me personally, I would want something that's already there, that is already feels lived in, and for me to be able to find a way to make my mark on it.
But I mean, we can already discount the possibility of it all being procedural, because I mean, I know,
of course,
we know that a good portion of it is being handcrafted, and the bit that's being handcrafted is what is actually you can go in and play in the open alpha right now. So they've started with this small system, and they're just going to build from this small place that they've started with, and it's all handcrafted. But they've not really talked about how procedural is going to work, you know, on the whole scale, the vast scale. They have said that planets are going to be procedural. So on those videos, when we're watching the videos, the horizon, what you see, that's actually a procedurally generated planet. And that horizon is real. You can go to any single point on that planet. But they've not talked about how they're going to actually populate that yet. So we do know that they're probably a shit ton smarter than Hello Games, the people behind No Man's Sky. They've also got a massive team and a massive budget, and I don't believe they're going to be making foolish mistakes. And the other thing is they're doing open development, which is another big plus for me. So they're getting feedback as they go, so they're going to be able to test and kind of find the balance. But where is that balance?
Yeah.
How are they even going to do it? I don't know. It's a tough one.
So let me ask you: Is it? Well, you might not know, but do you have like a planet where a part of it is developed by them? You know, like that base that they showed in the demo, and then as you move away from that and you get into different parts of the planet, that part is procedural. Is that what it is?
It looks that way, at least at the moment. It looks that way. So you might have, I guess you could call it a populated center, a city or whatever, and that might be crafted. But the rest of the planet, like the wilderness, I guess, would be procedural. And that would kind of fit, because that fits the whole wilderness versus population, human population type thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I might be going way off the deep end on this one, but I would like it if you could go out into the wilderness, you know, and that wilderness exists until somebody builds on it, basically, you know, so you're allowed to, build your own bases and stuff like that. That would be so awesome if they could do that. You know, if you could, it's all procedural basically until somebody builds on top of it. But once somebody builds on top of it, that stuff gets locked in. So you could have a procedural planet that ends up becoming, basically non-procedural because you have a faction that is building their base on this thing. And that base becomes persistent. Whatever it is that they build becomes persistent.
And that works too because you're mimicking real life. You're mimicking real human behavior.
That's exactly, yeah.
And that the more they can mimic that real human behavior, the more people are going to be sucked in.
The more people will get engaged with it because it'll be, then you're talking about real simulation, and then it's real life Star Trek. You're going out and you're
exploring the frontier.
Able to truly, explore the frontier and truly make your mark on it because you go there, you stick your flag down, and then your flag stays there.
You know how much I love colonization. I think that's the reason I loved colonization, because you go out into this wilderness, you explore the wilderness, and you set up your base from scratch, and you get all the satisfaction that comes from building a nation. And it's that kind of same analogy, or almost like Rust. You just start with nothing, and then you have to go and get the resources, build your base, you form your clan, whatever. It's that same thing.
Yep, that'd be great. That would be fantastic
if
they could do that.
And I wonder too,
because that's when you would end up with real, what we were talking about before, where you end up with real conflict, because you have people
claiming space.
Because then you have people claiming space, and then you have real conflict over territory.
And then people are going to get so
because
into
then
it.
You have real strategic interests, because you have this area over here where this group of planets is owned by one faction, and then somewhere over in this other area you have another group that is owned by a different faction. In the middle there is some kind of resource that both sides want. Well, now you got a war.
Yep. And that's a real war where people are, like you said, gaming 24/7 and losing themselves in this game, and it starts to become a little bit mental. But that kind of development towards that is inevitable with technology anyway. It's obviously going that way.
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I wonder as well.
Because that's a world that I wouldn't, that's a kind of world that I wouldn't mind losing myself in from time to time. It's something where, you spent the last 3 days doing nothing but playing Star Citizen, but guess what? I don't feel bad about it. Because, we did something. We really did something that had a real effect inside this game. And it's like, that doesn't have any effect on my real life, but who cares? My real life is normal, or, is
average.
Whatever it is. Yeah, it's average. And there is no more frontiers on this planet, So there's no way to have that experience in our real lives. But you can actually have that experience of being someone on the frontier, or of being, some kind of colonizing faction in a simulated setting.
And this is exercising the fantasy of, I don't know, like every pretty much gaming geek on Earth in some shape or form.
Yeah, it's all power fantasies, right? But if you create something where the power fantasy is not where you begin the game and you level up and you do all of that, the power fantasy comes from actually accruing power within the structures and what's the word I'm looking for? The hierarchy that has developed organically through just thousands, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people playing this game. That's something that will have a real tangible feel to it. That's something that will stick with you because it's real, and the people who are on the other end are real. So if you ever go, like, say you're based in America, and then, like, your other guys are based in Singapore, and you've got some other guys based in Australia, those relationships that are built in that game are something that's going to be that's going to exist in real life. So you've seen a little bit of that with World of Warcraft, but that can only go so far. But if you have fought a war of territorial expansion with these guys, that's going to be something that will stick with you in real life. And I think that will be a shared experience with these people, and will actually bring you closer to them.
And I think that organic development is what could set Star Citizen apart, because Elite Dangerous, it just isn't possible. It's not possible. And so many people have complained about it so many times, and I've just stopped playing the game because it is so shallow. You cannot do much beyond a certain point. It's a flight simulator, basically. And it's a fantastic...
It's a spaceflight simulator.
Yeah, and it's absolutely outstanding at that. But that's pretty much all it is. You cannot own, you cannot build, you cannot... If you go exploring, there's nothing to see. It's just... And that kind of brings me back to this procedural generation thing. So they've got this area of space which is civilized, basically, and then you've got all the rest of space, and it's vast, and that's all procedural. But if you go there, it's just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and there's no reason to go there in the first place because you can't build.
Yeah. But if you can build,
well, shit.
Then it's infinite.
Yeah.
Because if it's procedural as you're going out into space,
you're mimicking the possible future of the human race.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's just going to keep expanding out, and it's like as that expands, it's procedural, but as it becomes lived in, it's no longer procedural. It becomes something that's real.
But created by the players. Because no development team on Earth
created by the players
can handle that much.
Yeah, there doesn't need to be.
No.
There doesn't need to be. It's like if they could just set up the systems, the players will do it.
And people love building shit too, so.
Yeah. And then, unlike Star Citizen, it's something where obviously the people are going to be able to cross each other. There's, that's obviously the crux of the game. And then the other part of it as well is that, rather than starting on some random planet and just having this 18 quintillion planet universe already exist, I would like to see it so that it starts at a point and then just organically grows out from there. So more or less. Whenever anyone starts, you start on like whatever this capital planet is, and this first planet is going to be super overbuilt, and that's realistic. I would love that. It's like you just start in this mega city, where everything is already built, everything is already owned. There's nothing you can do with it.
So you have to branch out.
You have to break from it. Yeah, you have to break from it or try to join some faction who's in it. But you can do that pretty quickly. You get your starship, and you're just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go out into space."
Yeah, I'm gonna make my way.
Going off into a direction, and I'm gonna make my way. Yeah. And naturally, as you go further and further out, the population is going to get less and less, and your opportunities are going to get greater.
And the risks, and the danger, and the excitement.
And the risks, yeah, because as you get further out, there's going to be more chance of pirates and all of that, because there are going to be, if you've got factions who control that main planet, they're going to control it with an iron fist. They're basically going to have some kind of police that builds up around that and keep pirates and stuff away.
But then you're going to get out into no man's space where anything goes. Did you see what I did there?
Which would be awesome. I did.
Did you like that?
Picking up what you're putting down. Got it.
All right, I think we could probably round off this topic here. That's just about tidy. That's pretty good. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I could go on with that. I could go on with that forever. But I like that idea of it, like starting in a central place and then just organically expanding out. So it's like, yeah, if you join it in a couple of years, it's like the universe has become vast, but it didn't start vast.
Yeah, and it was player created. So if they can set up the mechanisms for that to happen.
Yeah, and as these groups expand out, that's where the procedural part comes in. It's like it's procedurally generated as you go out, but as you build on it, it becomes fixed.
And that would be awesome. And from a development point of view, they're creating basically a platform for other people to create within, and that is just smart development in terms of game development.
Yeah,
because it takes the onus off them to develop. If you put the power in players' hands, and that's just smart, because then it becomes self-perpetuating.
It's easily self-perpetuating, and the only thing that they need to do is just patch it from time to time and occasionally put in some kind of new systems that the players are asking for.
It's just like the Facebook of gaming. Yeah.
And I remember seeing some comment about EVE Online, and about how it has these economies and everything, and I think that's good. I'm glad that exists, and I think Star Citizen should learn from that. It's like, take on those economies, because that's, if you have an economy, a functioning economy that's within the game, then you have a basis for people to factionalize.
And the more realistic, the better. The more detailed, the better. Because some people are just going to... That's their thing. They're just going to get into it.
Yeah, they're going to get into the details of it, and then other people are just going to work within that. They won't ever get into the details, but they will still be beholden to them.
And that's just, again, like mimicking real life.
Exactly.
All right.
You know, you're a part of the economy, whether you want to be or not.
All right, I'm going to pause it there, and then I need a pee.
Okay.
Give me a sec.
I'll go.
All right, stop.